My father, gosh, I think he's 54 years sober. My grandfathers were both in AA. My one sister was addicted to heroin. I had another sibling that was addicted to crack cocaine. And so addiction and AA and the 12-step program has been so instrumental and shaped so much of who I am.
My gosh, wow. Letting go and surrendering to God, his care and concern and plan as well. That's the thing as I've gotten older that I probably appreciate the most.
There's my business, there's your business, and there's God's business. I think it was just acceptance of the humanness, because that's where we all meet. I'm human, you're human. I screw up, I miss. Whether you're an addict or not, we all go blind. I think that's the gift when we take responsibility for our experience of life. We recognize that who's in our life is a gift to love. We never know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Do you think that's why you give others so much grace?
Yes, through God's grace, I've been extended grace. It naturally extends to others, and it's a sane and kind way to be. I think that that's the true empowerment, is when we recognize what is no longer needed, that disconnect us from love, that disconnect us from our nature. When we start to invite our awareness and our attention to this moment, that's where life really begins.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. So I've had her husband on like 5 times, and I'm sick of him. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm just kidding. He's one of my favorite people in the world. But for a long time, I've wanted to have a conversation with this woman. I was in Boston last night. I was telling people how excited I was about this conversation. They said, "Oh, the woman behind the man." I said, "No, this is the woman with the man standing right next to him." And of the few events I've been to of Tony Robbins, I love Tony, and he's been a mentor to about everybody that's been on this show. But when I leave, I feel myself remembering and being most impacted by the things Sage has said. And I think I know why as I prepped for this interview, as I learned more about her. So she, in her own right, is a world-renowned speaker. She's a mentor, huge philanthropist. But when I think of Sage Robbins, I think about her heart. I think about her grace. I think about her wisdom. And you'll hear it immediately when you hear her voice. There's just a piece about her that she transfers to other people that's just magic. And so today is going to be an incredible conversation with Sage Robbins. Sage, finally, welcome to the show.
Well, Ed, it's such a gift to be with you as well, and as well your listeners. And thank you for your gracious introduction.
It's true. Do you hear it, everybody? It's already there. You can feel it. So she's here to promote, which Tony's done many times. This year, they're having a Time to Rise Summit, January 29 through 31. You all need to go get registered for that. We're going to put the link to it in the show notes. Every year, Tony and Sage and a few others do a free event that I still can't believe is free for multiple
Yes.
days that changes people's lives. It's changed literally millions of people's lives. And so please make sure you register for that. I think you would second that, right, Sage?
Yes, it's absolutely Ed. And what's amazing is Tony created this summit in 2020, actually, and we were collectively all in the middle of the uncertainty and chaos of the pandemic. And this is really when this, Time to Rise was birthed. And what's so extraordinary is what started with Tony's intention to serve and mission has really become a global movement.
Goodness.
And over the past 5 years, we've had the privilege of, connecting and having over 5 million people join the Rise Up Summit. So yeah, it's amazing.
Did you hear that, you guys? 5 million people. Oh,
Yes.
Tony and Sage Robbins can gather that many people. So it's going to be awesome. Join them there, you guys. I can't endorse it enough. You'll love it.
Thank you.
Okay, Sage, here's the thing. I didn't know this about you. So everybody lean in here. This is going to be awesome. So I grew up with a father in recovery.
Mm.
Um, well, the first 15 years of my life, my dad was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and then he got sober. And then I started to read about you. And so I'd like to just start there from my own personal
Sure.
reasons. So, who was it in your family that was in recovery? And were they in recovery the entire time, or were they addicted at some point and then got sober during your lifetime?
Yes. Thank you, Ed. My father, he has over, gosh, I think he's 54 years sober.
Wow.
I've probably been to more AA meetings in my life than I have church. Probably not, but close to, let's just say.
And here.
I literally was raised in AA meetings, and
Ooh.
what's interesting is it wasn't just my father. My grandfathers were both in AA. My one sister was addicted to heroin for a big portion of her life. I had another sibling that was addicted to crack cocaine.
Mm.
And so addiction and AA and the 12-step program has been so instrumental in just who I am
Good.
and shaped so much of who I am. And it's funny, growing up and listening to the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I heard that prayer over and over and over again. And yet at this stage of my life, I recognize and understand and experience what it means.
Mm.
And I missed, I always thought that AA and the 12-step program was for those people who are addicted. And I suppose if we're human, we all have blind spots and areas of patterns of addiction. And I had no clue of how much the 12 steps of AA shaped who I am, impacted who I am, the notion of sponsorship and servitude. And, my father, also my parents, in our home, they often, like the people that you wouldn't necessarily believe that would be coming over for Christmas dinner, they were
Yes.
always at our home, the whoever just got out of jail. And my father is just such a decent human, both my mother and my father, and really shaped who I am and how I relate to people from all walks of life.
I can't believe you're saying this because that's funny. Well, we're recording this, you guys. It's a few days before Christmas. And I was just saying to my daughter this morning, we had some characters over my home during the holidays,
Yes,
wonderful people, but then had just gotten out of jail
yes,
and had many, many years of using drugs, same exact thing.
yes,
And,
yes.
so I grew up around Amy. My dad ended up passing away 35 years sober when he died.
Well,
And but the transformation of having a sponsor and someone that loved
yes.
and cared about you and taking these steps has been I think that's why I do what I do here. It's probably because my dad got sober and what I've learned from AA. So I'm so grateful.
It's amazing.
It isn't. I didn't
That's,
know that about you either.
yes.
I'm curious what part of it impacted you the most. I'll tell you what part for me as I've gotten older that I appreciate more, and I'd love your wisdom on this. It's the surrendering part that was
Mm,
hard for me when I
yes.
was young and climbing and wanting to assert influence and control over my own life, yet
Mm,
that nuance of letting go and surrendering to God,
mm.
his care and concern and plan as well. That's the thing as I've gotten older that I probably appreciate the most. I'm just curious about that nuance for you, how you view that, because Tony and you teach these tools of how to change your life, yet at the same time surrendering to a higher power and having, that surrendering that control, so to speak. I'm curious what your view is on that.
Yes. Well, I love that you use the word nuance because it is nuanced to surrender. It's kinder and saner when we do. That's my experience. Because
Mm,
a lot of times what we're surrendering is the expectation that life should be different than what is. What is reality. And from my own experience, Ed, is, I have suffered the most when I believe that life should be different than whether it's a diagnosis, whether it's, a mother with dementia or, my own health challenge or whatever it looks like, or somebody that's just passed. I think it's the overlays that life is unjust or unfair that AA really schooled me to recognize, or at least one of the pathways, if I'm honest,
mm,
of what living surrender looks like
mm.
in the moment, in real time, because I think that that's where the real blessedness comes from. It's not, and I don't know about you, but I don't have this mastered. I'm ongoing, and it's an evolution for me. This thing called surrender, but it's also selfish because it's freeing. It's freeing and creates spaciousness where there's resistance when I don't. So that's one of the, I'd say, I'm aligned with you. I'd say that's one of the great impacts of AA. A second one I would say is where we began in this conversation, Ed, and I didn't realize how powerful it was, but witnessing my parents accept and bring human beings into our family's house that have done quote unquote horrible things, I really feel is one of the gifts that AA offers and is missed in a world where cancel culture is so or demonizing people and blaming people for something that somebody did or said a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And, with
Yeah.
that mirror of acceptance, with
Mm.
that mirror of, it wasn't even forgiveness. It was greater than that. I think it was just acceptance of the humanness, because that's where we all meet. I'm human, you're human. I screw up, I miss. Whether you're an addict or not, we all go blind. And I feel that living, ever evolving example of acceptance that my father and my mother reflected to us has shaped who I am as a woman and as a human.
Just amazing. By the way, I'm already done with the episode for me. You just like, I'm serious. My gosh, wow. I feel like I have a lot of weaknesses, but one of my strengths is I think I have, patience and compassion with people. I don't just see them for their behaviors.
Yes.
And I think that's because of what you just described
Mm.
when someone would be in our home and my dad would say, "So, Joe's coming to dinner tonight. Joe's a friend
Yes.
of Bill W. and a friend of mine." And I went, "Oh, okay." And
Yeah.
he would maybe share with me a little bit of his story. And I would just see this person differently. I would want to
Yes.
know them and their story and their wounds and their trauma and a little bit more empathy. And my gosh, I look at the world today and I wish the fact that you have that or I have that didn't stand out maybe so
Mm.
much. I mean, I'm sure it hurts your heart just to see how we treat people that we might just disagree with
Mm.
politically even.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about that? Like, what advice would you give to somebody who, they've got a family member they used to be very close to, and now they aren't because of the way they vote? My
Yes.
goodness, right? Like, what would you say to somebody who just struggles with finding love and compassion for someone that they may not align with on every topic?
Well, uh, you know, number one, I just feel that when we recognize that we're all human, when you recognize that we all have our gifts and yet we're all unconscious at times,
Yeah.
there's an allowance for the humanness when we have a willingness to drop our external blame and demonization of one another, Ed. It's
Mhm.
my experience that we start to understand one another. Because if I'm only focused on what you're doing, if I'm only focused on what you're saying or how you're blind or how so and so's, whatever, an idiot or unconscious or whatever political party or however we label and identify people, we miss how am I being? How are
Mhm.
you being? I think like that's the most powerful reflection or self-reflection. And it's interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with Byron Katie's work. She
I,
talks
I
about,
I just read a book. It's right there.
oh,
Sage, it's the last book I read before this interview.
well, that's amazing.
The
That's
work,
amazing.
right? The
Yes,
work.
the work. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So she's a very dear friend, and we adore her. And we have her at a number of our platinum partnership programs. And she has a simple mindset that there's my business, there's your business, and there's God's business.
Mm.
And that has been so revolutionary of how I perceive life because I'm aware it's like, oh, that's none of my business. It's your business, whatever you're doing, what people believe, what their preferences are, whether it be political, whether it be sexual, whether it be religious, whatever floats somebody's boat. That's
Hmm.
their life. That's our autonomy as a human being, that we're given that free will. It's a blessing to be
Hmm.
able to choose and to connect to what feels honest and true for me, or what feels honest and true for you or your listeners. And somehow, well, I suppose social media, Ed, has been, one of the highways to us or platforms for us being in everybody else's business. But I think, we live in a world where there's a notion or an identity or a label for no contact with our families. And, it just invites, I'd say probably the biggest piece I'm passionate about is loving like this was our last day. And, my sister was just diagnosed with cancer just a couple days ago. And My mama this year, she had, she has dementia, and I never imagined that this holiday would look so different for us as a family. And we never know what tomorrow's going to bring. None
Mm,
of us. We don't know whether, our parents that, because they didn't love us the way that we wanted to be loved. Well, I'm a parent. You're a parent.
yes.
Who's loving every single moment? You
Right.
know what I mean? We make people wrong. We choose to have no contact for being human,
You're so
for
right.
doing what I do, for doing what you do, which means we as human, we screw up at times. We're harsh at times. We can be unconscious at times. And once again, I mean, this takes me back to AA, Ed, but I really feel that that is, it's just something to really self-reflect
Yes.
and to connect to. And if we separate or have no contact with our parents or with our siblings, that hurts us. That hurts us. And even though we say that it doesn't, to close off a part of ourselves that affects our well being of mind, it affects how we, um, how we have resonance with one another, never mind ourselves.
Wow. Resonance with one another. I'll mess up her work, but along the lines that you were talking about with her work that you're referring to, one of the questions you ask yourself in her work, I've been asking myself this now for like a week. It's the last book I read,
Huh.
which is she talks about, is this true? And are you sure it's true? A thought you have, opinion you have about somebody. But one of the questions is, who would I be
Mm.
if I didn't have that thought anymore, or I didn't
Yes.
believe that? And I think it's so valuable to ask yourself, like, who would you be if you didn't hold this resentment towards somebody? Who would
Yes.
you be if you didn't have this very narrow view of who they are? That's the one thing about my dad being in AA. When I would meet people, I realized they're a soul, and
Mm.
their story is not just what they've done, but there's a much deeper view of a human, of a soul, and that we put these people in boxes and we simplify one another. Who would you be if you didn't hold on to that resentment anymore?
Mm.
Who would you be if you gave them another chance? Who would you be if you opened yourself back up? Anyway, it's amazing that you mentioned that book and her work, and during this time too. So good.
Yes, I agree, Ed. And you know, I've done a lot of the work of Katie's work. And at the beginning, when I was first introduced to it, Ed, I don't know about you. I don't know if you've actually sat down and done the work itself on paper. Ego is so seductive and it moves so quickly. And so when I started to do the work, I was doing it in my mind. And so I would think of a resentment and, I'd be, just, oh gosh, who would I be? But the real fruit of actually doing the work is to taking time to write it out. And so for those of you, we're speaking about something that's a four-step process. And it's called The Work by Byron Katie. If you have somebody in your life, a parent or a sibling or anybody in your that you've disconnected from or you've chosen to have no contact, I highly invite you. The work is free. You can print it out and you can print it out at thework.com. But what's really powerful is to sit with it and to actually fill out the worksheet and to be still.
Can you walk us through those four things?
Sure. So the very first step is it true? So, for those of you, and you keep it really, really simple. So, for example, if I was upset with, say, my sister, and so it's usually the external narcissist is a great one. It's, we don't do generalized statements, you do something specific. So, my sister you could say, my sister was, so harsh. The more specific that we are when you go through, it's like, my sister is so harsh. Is it true? The first step. Can you absolutely know that it's true? And you go through this process. And then, so that's the second question. Can you absolutely know? The third one is, what you mentioned is, who would I be? And for those of you listening, who would I be without the thought,
Mm,
my ex, who fill in the blank, is whatever judgment that you have upon them.
mm,
And then the fourth one, the fourth one is, how do I react when I believe that thought? And it's really beautiful.
mm,
That's where self reflection comes from, Ed.
mm.
How do I react when I believe that thought that so and so is harsh or narcissistic? And, for example, I close off,
Mm,
I shut down,
mm.
I disconnect. I don't reach out to my sister. I'm harsh with her on the phone. I'm making it up right now. And then the fourth one is the turnaround. And there's a lot of fruit in that as well, Ed, because we start to turn around. It's like, okay, my sister's a narcissist or my sister's harsh. I'm a narcissist. I'm harsh. And you find three examples, and it's so powerful. It's such a simple process. But for anybody that is disconnected from their families, I've done a really poor job articulating the process. You can
Oh, you
find it on
haven't.
the school for the work. Um, but it is truly, it's really profound
It
and
is
it's life
profound.
changing.
It is. And I have to say one thing. I'm glad you mentioned it the way you did because I haven't written it down.
Oh, you have to.
One of the reasons I think I loved my dad so much, and I love people that have been in a 12-step program for a long time, is
Yes,
they do a form of work that most
they
people
do.
get around to doing. They're much more
Yes,
self-reflective, they're self-aware.
yes.
There's a humility that comes with the program, I think. Don't you agree? Like my dad just became this wise man. It wasn't his intellect, it was the self-reflection. It was the humility
Yes.
of seeing himself and other people that I'm really grateful I caught at least a little of that. I think as a parent, a lot of things are caught, not taught. I caught a little of it. Did you learn some of that from your dad too? Just that self-reflection and introspection that most people in a fast life of Instagram and work and kids and soccer and friends, they spend no time with themselves.
True. We can miss ourselves. And I love how you speak about your daddy, Ed.
Mhm.
My father and my mother are just true heroes in my own mind and heart because of that self reflection,
Mhm.
because of that ownership, because, like my dad was just, he stole cars. I mean, he ended up in jail. He certainly had his own version of a past, but it was always just very forthright. And
Mhm.
I never saw my dad as that man. I had the privilege of experiencing who he is and who he continues to be through evolution
Mhm.
and the 12 steps and of Alcoholics Anonymous has been one of those pathways that has hugely, yes, helped to shape my own self-reflection. And I'm so grateful for it because it's a painful place to be when we don't have that self-examination and we live in a world which we experience, whether through politics or through social media, Ed, that has an external frame of blame, has the external, you did this, you said this, you're that. And I just really feel that, self examination
Yeah.
of seeing how am I being and what may I be missing are two really powerful questions for myself that I constantly inquire because that's something that I can affect.
This is so good. By the way, everybody, we'll move off of AA in a minute, but I want to go one more thing. No, because I actually, Sage, you're one of the very few public people, I myself too, that actually even ever talks about the program at all and its impact.
Yes,
It's such an interesting thing that, and one of the things I want to ask you one more part of it. Now,
sure.
let's flip it for a second, and that you have done something harsh to somebody.
Yes.
One of the things that my dad became, one of the steps, you guys, is making amends.
Mm.
And one of the things I loved about my dad, because a lot of times when somebody gets sober, they can still, my dad used to go, sometimes I'm a dry drunk. And I would ask my dad, what does that term mean, Dad? He goes, well, I still got some of that personality in me still of being an alcoholic. I can be pretty edgy and my temper.
Mm.
And my dad would, it's so funny, we'd have a conversation, maybe it didn't go well on the phone. And I would tell my wife, my dad will call me before bedtime tonight. You watch. And sure enough, the phone would ring. Hey, I was thinking I was wrong earlier. I'm so sorry if I hurt your feelings.
Mm.
My dad was very quick to apologize and to
Mm.
make amends and to fix that. And it's
Mm.
one of the most redemptive things I think a human being. I wish more of our politicians said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I tried to get it right, but I missed this one. I'm just
Yes.
curious about what your thoughts on that in a relationship, even you and Tony, is to say,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed that one. I was wrong. I wonder what you think about the power of making amends in your life and acknowledging a mistake and making that as a part of the healing process.
Well, I find it so freeing And I really believe it's one of mine and Tony's superpowers
Mm.
in our relationship. It's admission. I went blind. I was harsh. I was a jerk. I was whatever. I was, when I spoke to you, I was disconnected.
Mm.
And I'm sorry.
Mm.
I'm sorry versus you did this. You were harsh. You were controlling. We don't see how we behave when we only have an external frame.
Mm.
And Tony, it's just that humbleness and willingness. And what's so beautiful is I love that your daddy, that you knew that that was predictable.
It was.
For Tony or I, if I'm either, say, if I left the room, within 2 minutes, I walk back. Or if not, he's coming after me.
Mm.
And we both, I think that's the gift when we take responsibility for our experience of life and we recognize that who's in our life is a gift to love.
Mm.
That's what 100% responsibility looks like is looking to tidy up the space because then that creates a newness. Tony and I have been together over 26 years and we have deeper love and just joy and beauty and laughter and togetherness and just closeness in our family that I never imagined actually at this stage of our relationship. And I really feel that, I don't know, saying I love you is one thing, but to say I'm sorry takes humility
Mm.
and it humbles us, it grounds us, it strips ego. And I'm so passionate about it. And my parents were an example. And it's been such a gift in mine and Tony's personal, our intimate relationship. What about you with you and your lady? I'm curious.
I think so. I think she's probably better at it than I am. I'm 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 quicker to do it sometimes. And that's the other part of it too. I think that hey guys, you want some business advice? Shopify. Let me just tell you something. From when I started on this podcast to when I was beginning, when I had a big dream, probably like you do, I was completely lost other than the idea of it. I didn't know how to get online, website, emails, marketing. How do you check somebody out? What do you do if they want to return? And you know what? It's hard to focus on all those things and make your business actually a real thing. So instead of dreaming of like going into outer space in your business and having no idea how to get there, take a rocket ship, and that's Shopify. You're going to need a website. If you got that, you need a payment system, a logo, a way to advertise, whatever it might be. Shopify can help you. 10% of all online commerce is done by Shopify. They're the guys you want to go see if you're beginning or if you're a big business or mid-sized business as well. Turn those dreams into and give the best shot at success with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Mylett. Go to shopify.com/Mylett. Shopify.com/Mylett. I don't know. I feel like in my life, whether it be with my wife or any of my friends, I want to be better.
Mm.
My outcome in my life at this stage is
Yes.
to be better. And then I kind of know my patterns, thanks to your husband, who's one of the people that helped learn me this. And one of my
He's
patterns,
such a legend, that guy.
he's pretty good. I told,
There's no one like him. I always say I really feel that Tony's the godfather of this industry that
oh, Sage, that's without
yes.
question. Everyone,
Yes, he
people
truly
ask
is.
me sometimes. I was kidding when I opened. I'm sick of this guy. This man's changed my life. And people say, "What are all the people that have been?" I've had 800 something guests on my show. What do
Wow.
them have in common, right? And I usually say we're descendants of the Tony Robbins tree. Almost.
Mm,
Whether I've had Matthew McConaughey on
that's
or a
beautiful.
brain surgeon from Harvard,
Yes,
we've somehow been impacted by Tony Robbins. And I introduced
true.
Tony one time, and I meant it. I think he's the most influential person of this generation of the last 100 years.
I agree with you.
And I really believe that. And so,
I agree with you.
but having said that, it's pretty cool to hear for everybody that even you guys got to work on your relationship, that even the two
Yes.
of you disagree, and that he is also a human and makes mistakes
Yes.
and missteps in life as
Of
well. That gives
course.
people hope.
Of course. When people say like, "Oh my gosh, it's easy for you. It's, you're Tony and Sage Robbins." I'm always like, "What does that mean?" We're
Mhm.
human beings who miss. And of course, I think that's the gift is putting these practices to work, to life. And, Ed, you said something about being a better human being. I
Mhm.
don't know that it's about being better. I think it's about becoming our most authentic versions of ourselves or are most sincere. And I experience that I'm more of my authentic self, and there's more sincerity through the willingness to admit. I love that you admitted that your wife will go first more often and say sorry. And
Yep.
so that's such a beautiful practice. After this conversation,
It's true.
try it on.
Hmm.
Just notice, because we all know what closing feels like. It's resistance, or the when the ego wants to be right, or wants to be, it's like my way, or to control a circumstance. It's like, hun, I'm so sorry. I'm like such a knucklehead, or I was like so harsh, or I was an asshole, whatever you want to say, whatever's true.
Yeah.
Not my words, your words, but it's like I spoke in a tone of voice that feels insincere
Mm,
to me.
mm,
I think that's how, you know, I don't know if it's better. I just think I suppose it's more in that state, my heart opens.
yeah.
Because I'm not, what would you say? We close our heart through defense and through blame. And I think we open it through admission and through self-reflection, and to act on that, to take responsibility, and to just, Tony and I have a practice. It's just like, I'm committed to going first. He's committed to going first. And so you make that commitment to yourself, never mind your lady,
Mm.
and you're going to surprise her.
That was a wow right there. Wow. You make it, see, I'm supposed to make the audience think. You're making me think today and reflect. Really, really good. You were married before Sage, and
Yes.
I remember I actually knew Tony back then. I remember, that wasn't an easy time, I imagine, for you. And I'm grateful that you're willing to talk a little bit about that today. I'm wondering, because you took some, that was not an easy time for you. What did that time teach you uh, about yourself? You took some criticism, I remember at the time, about all that. How did that impact you? Like that stage of your life, if you just speak on it, what did you go through there and what did you learn?
Well, it matured me.
Mm,
It schooled me. I don't know that there's per se, like I used to think it was like the wrong decision as a younger version of myself. I
mm,
don't look at it that way, Ed. It was an experience.
right.
And that experience taught me a lot. And, who I am today, the woman I am today, everything's like a puzzle piece. It's like stepping stones. And my first marriage was that, even though, it was for a certain window of time. It's funny. He and I spoke for the first time after so many years, Ed, just about a year and a half ago. And it was so nice just to say hello and,
Wow.
God bless, and I hope all is well in your life, because I think you don't spend, a certain amount of years with somebody and, you know, not wish for their happiness. And I feel like that's the gift of life coming full circle. But I would say the biggest piece is it matured me.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I I have so much of who I am today. I think, self-reflection, I suppose, once again, it was easier for me at that stage of my life. I had more of a lens of what he was missing. And through that maturity and that experience, I really dug down at a super different level of honesty.
Hmm. When I see you, I think of someone who gives other people a lot of grace. That's just my perception,
Mm.
right? I think the reason I said peaceful when I introduced you is that there are certain human beings that are in touch with either God or a part of themselves that I feel like when they, and by the way, I have coaches like this. So this is
Mm.
not some, whimsical, mamsy-pamsy thing I'm describing here. What I mean by that is that I don't feel a lot of judgment
Mm.
when you interact with people. And so I call that grace, that it seems to me as if you're seeing someone as they are, and maybe even the best version of them. And then I heard you have this thing that you do daily called 60 seconds of grace. If I mess that up, you can tell me. But
Yes.
what is that? Is that a practice that you do literally every single day?
Well, I want to say something about what you said earlier. You had mentioned about us being, going through in my first divorce and being criticized. That was also something that humbled me.
Mm,
And those circumstances when your life plays out on the world stage, I think that teaches you a different level of acceptance and non-judgment, or at least to drop your judgments. Because, it's, I guess you just recognize that we're all human for my own path.
Mm.
Uh, but anyways, you had mentioned about,
Well said, by the way. You're right about that. I've lived it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so those criticisms, you know, it really, I don't know, it humbled me. And I recognized that humiliation is the fruit of humiliation is humbleness. It strips like the illusion of control, or the energy that it takes to hold up these innocent facades, or our conditioned parts of ourself. And um, I think that's the gift of vulnerability and transparency that sometimes um, can be missed.
I just think you're tremendous. Do you think that's why you give others so much grace because you had to give it to yourself? Is that
Yes.
yeah?
And, by the way, you said I'm peaceful. I'm not peaceful every single moment. There's a force of freaking nature in this woman and this human, and I can be a hurricane. And the grace, yes, or the peace. Through God's grace, I've been extended grace. And through difficult times in my life, there's just been generosity of this human spirit. And that's really schooled me how to be.
Mm,
And yes, I really feel that the more graciousness that we can bestow upon ourselves or extend to ourselves, it naturally extends to others.
mm.
And it's a sane and kind way to be. Why not? There's enough people spewing judgments and opinions. This world doesn't need any more opinions. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But perception,
Mm.
uh, willingness, and receptivity to see ourselves, that's fresh.
What's the 60 seconds of grace? Is that an actual practice you'd recommend somebody do, or is that just 60 seconds of grace? What is that?
Yes, Ed, I discovered 60 Seconds of Grace. We were traveling, Tony and I were traveling the world at that time, probably close to, gosh, over 250 days of the year.
Mm.
We would on average travel the globe close to like 2 times a year. And so we were at events, there's bright lights, there's music, and a whole heck of a lot of human beings. And at that time, I was doing meditation in the morning. I was bookending my days, and I was doing meditation at night. And I remember this moment, and I was feeling really overwhelmed and stacked. And I made my way out to the loading dock because that was just a lot of times where I ended up where it was quiet. And I sat on a forklift and I closed my eyes and I gathered my attention and awareness back to my own breath and what was happening in this moment. And it was a way of realigning, it was a way of tuning in.
Mm.
It's a way of resetting. It's really for myself, it's like a moment to moment at times practice of tuning back in and noticing, because that's where mindfulness really comes to life. We can do it right now if you like.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so fantastic. So, Ed, and all of those of you who are listening, let's simply close our eyes and adjust yourself so that you're comfortable. And notice your breath. Notice the miracle of your body being breathed. The miracle of life itself that's happening within us, that's guided us to this exact moment of time. And as you inhale, you're breathing in the atmosphere of this moment, the miracle of this moment. And as you exhale, you're simply letting go of everything and anything that's no longer needed. So allow the miracle of your breath, the natural rhythm of your inhale and exhale. As you continue, and if your mind wanders, simply invite your awareness back to this moment. Let's simply take a few moments of grace, of peace, Gently open your eyes.
I don't want to. Okay.
Uh,
That's too good. That's like the all-time greatest podcast moment. Do we have to do the rest of the podcast, Sage? That was so good. I want to tell you one thing. By the way, everybody, you feel that? Uh, 3 million people just clipped that audio so that they can play that every single day for themselves. I could tell you. That was wonderful, Sage.
What did you experience? What did you notice?
I know exactly what I noticed. I'll tell you one thing, my breathing, I was very conscious of my breathing,
Mm.
but in my case, I've been doing a practice very similar to that. So I could tell you what I noticed, which is just, it's the word you use, like what a miracle just being here is.
Yes.
And how, I'm a climber just like you or Tony or anybody listening to this, but like just being grateful for like the most simple, beautiful things.
Mm.
And being grateful for that moment, to be honest with you, is my main thing. What about you?
So, therefore, being grateful for this moment.
Yes. You said something there I want to ask you about. So I've been dying to ask you because you said something about there, what's no longer needed. So I want to tell you about, I bought this place, and at the place that I own, there were two bald eagles that lived there,
Mm.
and they were there about 10 years before me. Fred and Wilma, we call them. And Fred got sick, and unfortunately he passed away, and Wilma was left on her own. And anyway, about 6 weeks after he passed away, the people from the bird sanctuary told me it's highly likely that Wilma will go soon. She'll be next.
Mhm.
And then I hear this like woodpecker noise for weeks. And I asked some of the people on the island, I said, on my place, the island I own, I said, do we have woodpeckers? They said, no, it's Wilma. She's kind of hammering her beak against the rocks. I said, my gosh, what's the deal? We should call. Is she trying to take her own life? What is she doing?
Mhm.
Anyway, I called the lady from the bird sanctuary, and she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, Mr. Mylett, this is an amazing process she's going through. She's sharpening her beak. And she said, in a few weeks, you're going to see many of her feathers are going to disappear. And I
Wow.
said, why is that? And she said, she's remaking herself.
Mm.
And what she's doing, Ed, is she's sharpening her beak so that she can pluck the feathers that no longer serve her. And she's going to extend her life by maybe double. And I thought, what an amazing metaphor for life. She literally, by the way, she's now got a new guy. She's had 3 kids. They've got a new nest, and she's like,
Wow.
but literally what she did is she became aware of what was no longer needed
Mm.
and what no longer served her. How big of a part of your life is that? Just that, because I've heard you say that several times.
Yes. Huge. And it's something that I invite my awareness to because I think that that's the true empowerment, Ed, is when we recognize like what is no longer needed. The
Mm,
simple judgments or resistance or blame or demonization or labels or habits or patterns that disconnect us
mm,
from this moment, that disconnect us from love, that disconnect us from our nature. I that eagle is incredibly wise, and it's interesting because life we in order to experience our nature, we need space. We need spaciousness in order to experience peace.
mm,
We
mm,
need spaciousness within inside of ourselves. And when we're constantly distracting ourselves or filling our mind with, you know, everything, external, everything that's going on, we miss this internal awareness, and we miss the connection and to the miracle, to this moment. And that's something that I find rearranging is when we start to invite our awareness and our attention to this moment. That's where life really begins.
Why have you not been doing this stuff on podcasts longer? Seriously, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Well,
I've done 820 of these. This is one of one, what we're talking about here today. So I'm being serious. Okay, we've talked a lot of things that theoretically. I want to ask you something because we're going to run out of time. By the way, guys,
okay.
it's been the fastest 40 minutes so far ever, or whatever the heck it's been. Seriously. If I go back to AA, one of the things that used to break my heart, and this is what I want to, it kind of leads to the summit in the sense that
Okay.
I tell you what I mean by that. My dad would bring these folks over and I would know their stories. And I knew they were in the program, although it's an anonymous program. So there wasn't a lot of discussion about specific things. But I'll remember asking my dad, 15 years later, "Hey, Dad, how's Joe doing?
Mm.
How's Sarah?" And some of the times my dad would say, "They're doing great. They just got their 15-year chip, for being sober." But other times my dad would say, "We can't find him."
Yes.
And I said, "Well, Dad, how long was he sober?" He goes, "Ed, 11 years, and then he fell off again." Or she
Mhm.
was sober 8 years and she fell off again. And I inevitably, when I would ask my dad, I would say, "What happened?" And usually what my dad would say is, "They stopped working the program. They stopped going to meetings." And so although all of these things we talk about, everybody, these thoughts and these practices matter, so does sticking with a routine in a program to some extent. I think you would agree with that, Sage. And so that's why Tony's work's so profound. I like some of mine as well, that there's tactics and there's strategies to life, that there's got to be a routine. Did you
Yes.
experience that too, where people got off the program and then my dad, Sage, to the day he passed away, was going to meetings 5, 6 days a week. During chemotherapy, he would go to meetings because it was such a part of who he became, his routine and his program. So
Yes.
although being free and being open and plucking our feathers and all that is part of it, so is also strategy. Like,
Yes.
your thoughts on that?
Well, Tony is such a masterful strategist. And yes, my father is 85 years old, and he actually just birthed a meeting with a collective group of individuals called Redemption Road.
Mm.
And it's so cool to witness and experience how he's working the steps in his life today, what sponsorship looks like, what paying it forward looks like. And, he keeps showing up, and he keeps showing up for others, but also he keeps showing up for himself. It's been a very humbling year and a painful year with my sweet mama and this thing called dementia. And so I really watched. I've just watched, I don't know, something that I think I was ignorant to. I don't know what I thought, but I'm just amazed at watching my father still do the work, at
Mm.
watching him still, I don't know, be humbled by life, be open by life, be schooled by life. And really, I feel like the Serenity Prayer has really taken flight in my father's way of being with my mom. And I've been just so schooled, and I so admire how he's navigated this chapter for himself and my mom and my whole family, to be quite honest. Just watching them all come together and pray for my parents. And we have a text thread, and it's just been so benevolent and unexpected, Ed, unexpected.
Well, I'm going to pray for your mom tonight. And when I say I'm going to pray, I really do. And so
Thank you.
we're going to have a couple million people here pray for your mom and your dad
Thank you.
as well.
Thank you. Well, I believe in the power of prayer. When you say that, you'll have a couple million people, the power of us coming together to notice the miracle, the
Mm.
power of us coming together to, I think it's why the Rise Up Summit is so powerful, to come together and to intentionally decide how to live our next year of life.
Mm.
There's such power in that aligning and connecting and, self reflecting. So,
I cannot get over how good today was. I can't get over it. I've been doing this a while, and so when one of them really impacts me, it reminds me of why I still do this.
mm,
And so I just want you to know, I think you're a treasure. I'm so grateful
thank
that you
you.
finally did this. I actually feel like this was God's timing too. I think it's like the right time.
Mm.
Right on. Sage, your message is needed. I mean, it's obviously you guys have this huge, tremendous platform, but I think you deliver it in a way that is different and very special and very unique. And we covered a lot of things in a very
We have covered a lot, Ed. It's been such a gift to be with you. And for those of you who are listening and have any interest, Tony created the Time to Rise Summit in 2020. And it was right in the middle of the chaos of the shutdown and COVID. And where there was just a hunger and a desperation for all of us to reconnect to something that was real inside of ourselves. And what started as a mission to serve has literally become a global movement. Over the past 5 years, Tony has seen over 5 million people in this summit who have all been committed, like you and I, wanting to live a different life and take back their lives. This is a place to learn about the tools and strategies to literally rise above your fears, to rise above your limitations, and to rise above the stories that you've been telling yourself, or I've been telling myself, why we can't. To reconnect to something deeper and to reconnect to something, the real reason why we're actually here. You'll walk away with a plan, and you'll also walk away with practices to live by. And what's amazing, it's free. You can tune in from wherever you are in the world. The Time to Rise Summit is January 29th, 30th, and 31st. Just 3 days to take back your life. Go to timetorisesummit.com right now and claim your spot. And we look forward to being with you. Tony and I do this together, a portion of it, and it's amazing. Timetorisesummit.com. And it's been an absolute gift to be with you as well. And what I really notice about you is your own earnest and sincere growth. And we meet in that. I trust that all those who are tuning in, we all meet in that. It begins with me, it begins with you. And I really believe that's how we change and bless this world.
So good. Your dad got to be so proud of you. Hearing him. I'm so grateful that we took some time today to not only help other people's lives, but to talk about our fathers, our daddy. It was really great to connect on that.
It really is. My dad and my mom are huge. I would never be who I am without their example. And I love that we've got to shine on AA as well in the 12-step program. Whether you're in the program or you're not, it's been a blessing to your life. It's been a blessing to my life. And I find that so powerful.
Yep. Today was a blessing to my life. All right, you guys. Sage, thank you. God bless you, everybody. Max out your life. Share this episode.